Target's about 50 yards away, huh?
Yeah, it is.
I'm about to spin it right down the middle.
Oh! Bang!
Give me my million!
Now, take notes.
No way. You gotta be kidding me, man.
What are you guys doing on the roof?
We're just practicing.
Well, get off before you break your neck.
It's for $1 million.
Get off.
The Eckridge $1 Million Challenge is back. Enter at EckridgeFootball.com for your chance to win.
You know she'd want that money.
Welcome in, along with Steve Palazzolo. I'm Sam Monson, and today, Steve, we are breaking down reasons for optimism for the University of Michigan despite dropping that first game of the season. Brought to you by Eckridge, the official smoked sausage of the college football playoffs. Steve, if there's reason for optimism for the Wolverines, it's got to be on defense, right?
Yeah, it is, because before the season, we put a whole YouTube video out there about how their defense might be the best in the nation. And despite the loss to Notre Dame, I don't think we're necessarily going to back off that point. There was a lot of optimism for the defensive side of the ball. It starts up front, especially on the edge. Chase Winovich off the edge, Rashawn Gary. Winovich is a guy that, even though he doesn't get as much hype as Gary, just wins. And he had 10 pressures. Notre Dame's tackles could not block him the other night. Rashawn Gary started to live up to all of the great physical tools that he had. Those two guys coming off the edge, they're going to be difficult for any offense this season, and all they need is one of these interior defensive linemen to kind of step up, push the pocket just a little bit, and just from a pass rush standpoint, I think Michigan's defense will be able to keep them in every single game.
The pass rush was phenomenal, not just Winovich, but that entire unit got a ton of pressure on the Notre Dame offense, and that's going to help a secondary that didn't have their best game this week, but they've shown in the past there's some real quality there as well.
Yeah, that's Lavert Hill at corner. He did struggle at times, and he gets a little grabby at the catch point, but we also saw him make plays on the ball, and he was a top 50 player for us coming into the season. We expect him to play well going forward. David Long on the other side gave up a little bit, but similar. Those guys have a track record of success. They were unbelievable last season. Expecting those two guys to both play better. They got banged up. Josh Metellus gets kicked out of the game, and then they, gets attacked down the field by Brandon Winbush. That was one of the touchdowns that they gave up. So I do think that secondary is going to be fine. They've got this track record of playing well, and I'm expecting, especially at corner, Hill and Long to be very good going forward.
What about my boy, Steve? Tell me about one of my favorite players in the entire country, one of the best linebackers in the nation, Devin Bush. He at least stood up to be counted in this first game.
I always send you a text message when your players do well. I sent you multiple texts. I said, there he is, Devin Bush, making plays, making plays. Last year, he was wreaking havoc off the edge as a blitzer, and he started to do that again the other night with 2 sacks. And just flying to the football, whether it was in the run game. He only got targeted one time in coverage for a 2-yard gain, and he just destroyed that quick pass to the flat. So love what Devin Bush brings to the table, and after watching him the other night, I think I'm ready to call him the best linebacker in the country. We put him behind a couple other guys in our top 50 coming in. I think Devin Bush may be elevated to the #1 status just after this game, the #1 graded player on that Michigan D.
I'm certainly not going to argue with that, Steve. I'm all on board. So this defense is good enough to keep this team in pretty much any game of the season. Even if they gave up a couple of big plays against Notre Dame, they're going to be thereabouts. What about reasons for optimism on the offense? Are there any, Steve?
We have to find something. I know it was a little bit rough with the offensive line not playing well, and they've been a little banged up at receiver, and there's no consistent playmaker out there, but Shea Patterson's the big story. He was supposed to be the savior at Michigan, so I'll give you 2 reasons for optimism with Shea Patterson. I'm still a Patterson believer. I do think he could be a very good quarterback, but if you look historically with Jim Harbaugh's quarterbacks, a couple of years ago we saw it with Jake Rudock. We've seen it with Wilton Spate. They take a little bit of time to get going. And Jake Rudock completely, he transferred in and completely transformed his season about halfway through the year. And I know Michigan fans don't want to wait until game 6 or 7 for Patterson to turn it around, but there are some numbers in the PFF database that say, maybe it'll be a little bit sooner than that. And it's when he was given a clean pocket. He had an 81.3 grade, which is very good, and the clean pocket numbers in our PFF database are the most stable ones. So when you do have a pocket to throw from, Shea Patterson threw the ball pretty well. He struggled under pressure, but you can't expect him to struggle as much as he did against Notre Dame. It was rough the other night. So if the offensive line can come together just a little bit more, Patterson has shown that he can make the necessary throws, and he's got a little bit of magic when he plays outside the pocket, even though it didn't work out for him the other night and he had the bad fumble late.
And the other thing at play there is he wasn't clearly 100% healthy all the way through that game, getting worked on repeatedly on the sidelines by the trainers. That's going to hurt those under pressure numbers where he needs to be able to run, rely on his legs, that kind of thing. So it shouldn't be that bad every single week. If we're going to look at optimism, there's definitely something there with Shea Patterson, and maybe we'll see an improved version in weeks 2, 3, and beyond. So that's going to wrap up our reasons for optimism for the Michigan Wolverines, brought to you by Eckrich. Don't forget to pick up your Eckrich smoked sausage at your local grocery store for this weekend's tailgate or homegate party. Make sure to visit EckrichFootball.com for that great game day recipe and to enter the season-long $1 million challenge.